call the next speaker, who's the keynote speaker. We would again like to remind you that we've shared the link for the questions. You can post your questions there, and apart from that, if time permits, you can ask the questions as the flow of the session goes. So the next session is the keynote. We have the keynote speaker, Mr. Kumar Seshu. He talks of Antar Prerna, and this is inspired by the Bhagwad Gita. He is the author of Born to Win, a process which helps people to discover their greatness within through programs based on Bhagwad Gita, and also helps them to implement the plans and actualize Swadharma. So for 40 years, he has implemented the philosophy of I can, you can, and we can based on the principle of Aham Brahmasmi, and touched more than 1 lakh lives in this journey. So without further ado, I'd like to invite on stage Mr. Kumar Seshu, and
Namaskar. First of all, a huge thanks to Ashok and to Dhiren for calling me and asking me to be here. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया अशोक और धीरेन. And आज सुबह जब मैं हेमंत जी को मिला और उन्होंने ये तस्वीर मेरी बनाई, तो मैं एकदम मेरे तो रोंगटे खड़े हो गए. I was so taken aback, Hemant. I must tell you, I sent it to my daughter and my wife immediately. And they both were saying, my wife was saying that, look, after seeing you like this, maybe it's time for me to fall in love with you all over again. And we know each other now for 43 years. So she said, ऐसा अवतार तू बनेगा, अगर पता था कि तेरी ये भी अवतार होगी, तो, I wish I'd met you 40 years ago, yaar. I could have asked you to do something like this for my father-in-law and mother-in-law. Anyway, बहुत shukriya, Hemant ji, for this. Absolutely, I'm really touched. I'm completely blown away. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to get ready like this. And take a photograph of that and send it to you. So that, we can compare, saying, look, this is reality and this is what, virtual reality is all about. So thank you so much for that. And so today I think I'm going to take maybe I've got about half an hour, 40 minutes, 45 minutes? 1 hour. Huh? Total time, we'll try and see if I can conclude by about 10:30, 10:45, so that you can. Okay, so before I begin, I just want to tell you why I'm doing what I'm doing. First of all, can you get the slide on? Oh no, the earlier one. Right. We are on the cusp of immense greatness as a country. And I loved the AV that you showed us at the beginning. And again, very shamelessly, I'm a collector of stories, I'm a collector of content. So if that is a shareable content, please share it with me. I'd like to share it with my Thai Bangalore team, saying this is what, this is where we are headed. And I thought that was a brilliant AV, Hemanji, if whoever has done it, many, many congratulations. We are decisively moving away, according to me, in the creation of Bharat. India, for too many years, has been trapped in a couple of cities, in the metro cities. And today, when I'm seeing Bharat as a student of economics, as a student especially of economic history, which is what my background is, I'm seeing something amazing that's happening in India, in Bharat. And I think we've got, the creation of a $10 trillion economy. On a lighter note, yesterday when the Prime Minister was speaking in the Lok Sabha, I managed to catch some part of his speech. I think one thing is for sure, whether it is the ND or whether it is India, it depends on which side of the spectrum you are supporting. But it doesn't matter. Both of them agree that we will become a $10 trillion economy, and I think that's a great thing for all of us, that whoever comes to power, it doesn't really matter. I think both are convinced that we will become a $10 trillion economy. I think the issue is timing. So somebody says 2029, 2030, somebody says 2032, 2033. It's okay, fine with me. At least in my lifetime, we will become a $10 trillion economy, and I think that's a great thing for all of us. So that at least everybody agrees. There is no disagreement on this part. Now, when we're getting there, I also believe it is time. I've been in business now from 1980. I've been observing businesses. I've been observing economy. I've been working with people like you. I've been working with your partners, with your clients. Since then, in one capacity or the other. I used to be in advertising at one point of time, and I'm very happy to see my old friend Alok here. Alok and I go back many years. Alok used to be in Roundtable with me. And those were my advertising avatar, Alok. Today is the Born to Win avatar, which is completely different. So just to give you an idea, in the 80s and the 90s, that we were very active in advertising. And since I mentioned advertising, I'll just mention one or two brands that I was fortunate to create. I don't know how many of you remember the Sundrop cooking oil ad, with the kid running and the puri following him. That's my ad. Likewise, Santur, my skin lies about my age. That was the research that I'd done. Amulya, we'd launched Amulya, ICICI Bank. So many of those businesses we'd done. And then after that, I decided to take a mid-career break in 2000. And I started Born to Win in 2003. And Born to Win primarily is about the mindset, transformation, attitude change. And this is something that we've been doing for the last 20 years, me and my team, and reasonably successful. After 20 years or so, I thought it's important for us to go back and research and come up with an Indic-based entrepreneurship model. Okay? Most of the entrepreneurship models that are available, that we have followed in India, have been based on Western concepts. But I think it's very, very important for us now to figure out, is there an Indic-based entrepreneurship model that we can now take up? And that's how Antar Prerna has come about. Thanks to the pandemic, one got a lot of time to research this particular subject and start talking about it and start seeing how we can implement. And there are some interesting success stories that we'd like to share with you. So if you look at India, we are now marching from 3.4 trillion, which is currently to about 10 trillion. Doesn't matter what the numbers are, what the date is, whether it is 2030, 2032, 2033, it's a matter of point. The fact is that we will be the third largest economy in real terms, okay? Our per capita income will more than double. It'll actually triple. Now that will mean that each of the people that you're dealing with will have far more buying power at that point of time than we have even seen today. Now that has some amazing implications, okay? The nature of savings has changed. From unproductive assets like gold, we've now started putting it into mutual funds, which is driving the economy. I'm sure you know all of this. I'm just trying to lay a base for what I'm trying to tell you. If you look at FDI inflows, we are at the highest we've ever been. It is predicted that in 2022-23, we were at about $100 billion. Now that's a huge amount of money. Our forex reserves have possibly jumped, and we are, at some 573 billion right now. And, in terms of long-term job creation, I think we're looking at a huge amount of 10 million jobs every year. If you look at MSME development, it's another very, very significant point. We're now at the cusp of about 10 crore MSMEs, and it's only going to get better and better and better as we go along. So there is an interesting march that is happening as far as the country is concerned. We had this pandemic, and everybody called it the Corona pandemic. I call it the Karuna pandemic, the Corona rebooting. Actually, some very interesting things have happened thanks to Corona. One, this whole vocal for local has become not just a slogan, but actually has got translated. This is a huge implications for each of us sitting in this room, especially for you people who are members of ISODA. That today we are not ashamed anymore of consuming local. At one point of time, before, if you see in 2019, 2018, 19, there was this huge drama of doing everything which had a foreign tag. And today I think the local tag is now coming up more and more and more. And that's something which is very, very interesting. One amazing thing that has happened from a productivity standpoint, okay? We have moved away from effectiveness. We have moved to effectiveness versus efficiency. If you recall 2010 to 2018, 19, the buzzwords in the industry used to be Kaizen, would be, TPM, would be 5S, etc., which is all about driving efficiency. I think what the pandemic taught us is to move to effectiveness rather than efficiency. And I think that's a very, very significant thing that has happened. That today we want to be more effective rather than just blindly pursue efficiency. And I think that's a great thing, because not every enterprise, according to me, not every system can be 100% efficient. Because we've got our own problems in India. We've got our legacy systems, which you can't overnight change. We've got our legacy people. In every enterprise, I'm sure even sitting here in this room, you've got employees who are 15, 20, 25 years old. You can't change them overnight. You can't get rid of them. That was what the efficiency model was all about. But today we're moving into effectiveness. And that's a very interesting thing that is happening in the country. The third thing that has happened, which all of you, and that beautiful AV also showed us, was the entire digitization that is happening in this country. And I think this is absolutely, absolutely stunning. I never believed 40 years ago when I started that I would actually be a witness to the kind of digital transformation that has happened in the Indian economy. It is stunning what really has happened if you look at the whole of this country. You look at UPI. Now I think the numbers are one interesting part of the UPI. But about 3 months ago, I was in my in my birthplace, which is Visakhapatnam. I don't know how many of you are from Andhra Pradesh here. But, okay, great, you're there, you'll understand what I'm saying. In Visakhapatnam, there is something called the Gangi Reddy, okay? A Gangi Reddy is a bull, okay, who's supposed to predict your future. So this bull comes in front of you, Prashant, and that Gangi Reddy's owner will ask, what do you think will happen to Prashant's term as chairman of ISODA? And that Gangi Reddy is supposed to shake his head and say something, and that guy will then interpret it for you, saying, Prashant, aapka term aisa hoga, wo hoga, ye hoga, vaisa hoga, all that rubbish. So this fellow caught me in front of a temple. And I was, for some strange reason, that day I wore a shoe with laces. Normally if you wear a shoe, a slip-on shoe, you can slip into it and run away from there. Now, when you have a lace shoe, you have no option but to sit and bend and, tie your laces. You can't run with open laces, no? So I had no option but to sit on that damn chair, and this Gangi Reddy is in my face. And that guy is asking questions like, will he have grandchildren? And important questions in life, For that, my daughter has to cooperate. But then what does Gangi Reddy know about that? That is another story altogether. So anyway, that Gangi Reddy thing finished. And then I said, I opened my purse, and to my disaster, I had only 100 rupee notes. Now, I knew that Gangi Reddy did not deserve $100. Okay? Can you believe what that joker does? He pulls out a QR code. And he says, you have GPay? I said, hai. Now, here is an embarrassing problem for me. With GPay, I can't give him $10, which is what I thought I'll give that fellow. So I was forced to give him 100 rupees. For a GPay. So, can you imagine where we've reached now? With this whole UPI business, and now we're talking of 1 billion transactions a day. That's the prediction. So, Can you imagine what is happening as far as the economy is concerned and what is happening in terms of transactions? Okay? Just look at it. Again, if you look at this whole Mudra scheme that has happened, okay, this PMYY scheme, the amount of loans that have been given is absolutely stunning. You look at internet usage, is jumping by leaps and bounds. If you look at the entire digitization that we are talking about, and today I've heard of a new word, which is XR, okay, extended reality. If you look at this entire biotech revolution, and there is this sea camp which is right across the road near Jakur, Ashok. If some of you have the time, you must go and visit it. Okay, there's a huge biotech revolution that is happening out there. Huge. I'll just give you one example. When I went there a couple of months ago, your normal, you remember the culture test that we go through, okay, the blood culture test or the urine culture test, normally it takes about 3 days, for the report to come to tell you what is the problem with you. They are now coming up with a machine which will tell you that in 3 hours. Can you imagine that? 3 hours. You'll get your culture report in 3 hours' time. Now that's the kind of stuff that is happening in Sikkim, just across the road in a place called Jakur, from here. So there's a huge change that is happening as far as this whole, this entire country is concerned. So gentlemen and ladies, there is a new Bharat in the making. There is a new Bharat in the making. The question is very simple. Are you going to be in the stands? Or are you going to be in the pitch playing the game? That's the option that I think we have. And when you said that the theme of this conference is to reinvent, transform and reinvent, I thought how interesting. For too long, we as business people have been in the stands. When there is a cricket match, the World Cup is coming up right now. All of us are going to be, paying some crazy money. How many friends from Ahmedabad? Okay, so I'm sure you will host us when we come there for the India-Pakistan match. And along with the doctor, you will keep somebody ready in case something happens to us. But the point is that all of us have got used to standing in the stands and cheering the guys who are playing the game. No? But the guys who are having the maximum amount of fun are the 22 people playing the game, not the thousands of people sitting in the stands. So the option that we have, gentlemen and ladies, is this. Are we going to be playing the game? Or are we going to witness this Bharat in the making? And that's the choice that we have as business people. I think it's high time that we decided that we're going to get down to the pitch and start playing the game and not stay in the stands. And that's the opportunity that we have. So look at the complete vision that we are talking about, okay? We're looking at agri-self-sufficiency. We're looking at digital India, okay? We're looking at harnessing the coastline. We've got a fantastic coast. We've not harnessed this coast, okay? Despite all the problems, and I mean, my friends from Bombay will criticize us for this, but that entire sea link that is being built is an amazing sea link that is coming up, okay? Health for all. Mental wellness is becoming a huge challenge for us right now. The infrastructure push. I was talking to a friend of mine who recently went on a tour across the South India, and he said the Tamil Nadu roads are amazing right now. It's brilliant, beautiful roads. He said, it's fabulous. He could never believe such a road exists. The MSME focus that's happening. We're trying to get to a pollution-free green India. The rural industrialization push that's happening. The space program. I was just telling Ashok about the work we do with HAL and with ISRO. And it's amazing. In the last 10 years, ISRO has moved from launching one satellite every year to one satellite every month. Unbelievable. That's the kind of stuff that's happening. Whether it is water for all of these are interesting things, the transformation that is happening in this country. And when I'm saying, will you be in the pitch or will you be in the stands, where will you like to play this game? Look at the sunrise industries in this country. I was traveling through the US in the whole of June and July. And I can tell you one thing, and I'm not saying this to push the US down. The US has too many legacy systems. Too many legacy systems. It's a beautiful country, it's rich, it's large, it's huge. Okay? 1/3 the population of India, and yet almost 4 times the land mass. 1/3 the population of India, and almost 10 times the economy of India. So it's a huge country, it's prosperous, it's huge, it's legacy. And when I was discussing this in Washington with a group of businessmen, with Indian businessmen, and when I put up these slides, their jaws dropped. I said, these are the kind of sunrise sectors that we have in India. Each of these sectors is going to go through a transformation. And this is just a small list that I'm showing you. This whole business of digital and physical India, I think, we talked about it a little earlier, physical and digital India. This whole business of agriculture, getting into agrotech, horticulture, you name the sector and it's a sunrise sector in this country. It is mind-blowing as to how much of opportunities exist in India. Now, what does all of this mean to you, to us, to each of us sitting in this in this room? I think, one of the things that I keep advising all my customers, my clients across the world, is it's time to pick and choose that sector that makes the most amount of resonance with your own mindset. Whatever is the mindset that you have, can you pick and choose that particular sector? Is it possible? There are some 23, 24 categories that have been put here. Is it possible for you to operate in all these 23, 24? I dare say no. It's not possible. But can you pick and choose saying, these are the 3 sectors that excite me the most? As someone who's in the business of taking software and making it part of everyday life, can I pick and choose 3? Can I pick and choose 4? Maybe your region, maybe your state, maybe your city has a greater focus on this than anything else. Can you pick and choose? Ashok was telling me, how do we scale our business? This is how you scale your business. Pick and choose 1 or 2 or 3 sectors and start becoming a specialist. One of the things I believe we need to do in this country is to come back to specialization. From being pure generalists, we need to start becoming specialists again. So can you pick and choose a particular sector that makes the most amount of sense to you from your mindset perspective? So let us say, if supposing, for instance, you like telecom or you like travel and tourism, can you become the last word when it comes to transforming every travel, tourism, hospitality-related business? Not just in your state or your city, but in the country. Can you develop such intense specialization that you are the person who becomes the last word in that particular sector? This is the opportunity that we have as an economy today. And these are the kind of opportunities that we are looking at. Okay? Look at the sectors that are getting the most amount of funding. This is another indication to you when you want to scale up your business. Where should you be operating in? What are some of the sectors that are hot that you can look at and say, can I get into this particular sector because this sector is getting the most amount of funding? Transportation. It is expected that in the next 1 to 2 years, we'll see a funding of about $107 billion. So those of you who have got clients or customers in that particular sector, can you look at this sector and say, what kind of a playbook can I develop in this sector? Healthcare, $52 billion. That's the kind of potential this sector has. So those of you who are already in the healthcare stuff, can you develop that practice? Look at telecom, look at technology, look at BFSI, look at media, look at industrial goods, and look at all the others, education, public sector, retail. Now, these are the sectors that are going to get the maximum amount of funding in the next 1 to 2 years. And if you add all this up, it comes to some crazy figure. And this is all sectors that are receiving funding right now, which means these are the kind of sectors that can we pick and choose to scale up our business. How can we look at these sectors? So the whole point when you're saying transform and reinvent, this is the whole point. That if you want to be in the pitch, and if you want to play this game, can you pick and choose which game you want to play? And not say, I'll just play any game that comes my way. The time, I believe, has come in India for businessmen like you to start looking and saying, this is the game that I want to play. And these are the kind of sectors that are going to make a lot of fun. Look at the kind of unicorns that have happened in this country. Mind-blowing. More than 100 odd unicorns in this country. This is a very dated slide. It just talks about the top 102 unicorn startups in India. But these are the kind of players who are playing and who are making a difference to this country. Okay? One good measure, how many of these unicorns are you dealing with? How many of these people are you actually doing business with? Okay? And is there something that you can learn from these guys? But there's another problem that we have in India. I mean, not everything is as rosy as I'm making it out to be, isn't it? There are also lots and lots of failures in the market. And look at this. Again, here is a huge opportunity for all of you. If you look at startups that have failed in this country and are failing right now, there are a couple of very interesting trends that are emerging. There's a market needs mismatch. There's a huge cash flow management problem. There's a wrong team. They're not keeping an eye on competition. Inaccurate pricing, product quality, business model is wrong, customer centricity, bad timing. All of these are problems that the startup sector seems to be having. And these are the reasons why most of them are failing. What can you as ISODA do to help these startups? Is there something that you can do? I believe yes. For first, let me tell you one thing. I mentor at least one startup a day. At least one. Okay? Thanks to my connection with an organization called TIE, Ashok and I are members of TIE. And every day there is one startup or the other who reaches out to me, and this is my, swadharma. I try and mentor at least one startup a day. I give them anywhere between half an hour to 45 minutes to ask me any question that they want to ask me, and I try and talk to them. And let me tell you one thing, and I've been doing this for 2 years now. They need your help, yeah. Irrespective of how young they are, irrespective of how cocky they are, irrespective of how brash they are, irrespective of how, seemingly cool they are, they need your help. Okay? They need your help. And who better than you who understands technology? Who better than you? Okay? They need your help. They need your wisdom. You have all spent, as ISODA, 15 years, but I'm sure as businessmen, much, much more than that. You've seen the world. आप देखे हो दुनिया को, आप परख चुके हो दुनिया को. आपके पास एक ज्ञान है. They need that wisdom. Believe me. And once they start appreciating that wisdom that you have, they will keep coming back again and again and again to you. And they need your experience. This is what is possible. Okay? So, when you're talking about this, they need your experience. Now, I'm telling you an interesting model for each one of you. Can they pay you your regular amount of money? Maybe not. Can they give you a share of equity of the company? Maybe they can. Maybe it's time for ISODA to look at a model which says not just revenue but also wealth. a lot of people like me are now working with startups. They can't pay me my consultation fees. They can't afford it. But they're very happy to have someone like me on board and pay me in terms of equity. So I'm betting on a few startups. And if one of them becomes a unicorn, I will have made more money in selling my shares in that company than I would have earned through my consulting fees. So it's a different model out there. Can you work on that? So look at startups and figure out what you can do to help them. I did tell you that I'm going to talk about antarprerna. They're not working? Any? Is there a battery change? ಏನಾಯ್ತಲ್ಲ? ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ ನೀನು ಅಡ್ವಾನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡು ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ಒಂದು ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. Okay. So now I'll tell you, let's see if this works. Okay, it's working. All right. So let's look at the antarprerna mindset that I think is essential if you know, when I said these startups need your wisdom, they need your thought, what is the mindset that I believe each one of us can inculcate to get into this point? So what is this whole business of antarprerna? Antarprerna, as the name suggests, is the prerana from within. Okay? Why do you need this prerana from within? You don't need prerana from outside. You know, if the foreign model of motivation is a very interesting model. Okay? If you look at the word motivation, if you write it down, MOTIVATITION, okay? The foreign model of motivation, the Western model of motivation, is an amalgam of two words, motive plus action. With me? The foreign model is motive plus action is equal to motivation. So there must be a motive to take action, right? And this motive is invariably external based. So what is this external based motivation? Is either reward or punishment. And that is the motive on which you will do some action, right? So what is the reward? If you do this for me, then I will give you 10 rupees. That's the motive, and therefore you take action. If you don't do this for me, I'm going to deduct 10 rupees from you, and therefore that is the motive, right? So I'm reminded of an old story that my teacher used to tell me. He said there was this dhobi and a donkey, and the dhobi and the donkey were great friends. Great friends they were. So one day the dhobi told the donkey, we are going to take route 3A. And the donkey said, oh my God, that route 3A is, full of climbing. But he said, chalo, let's go. So they went to place number 1. And the dhobi felt very sorry because the donkey had climbed a steep climb. And the donkey as a reward dhobi as a reward gave the donkey a carrot. So the donkey was happily chewing the carrot, regaining its energy. Till the dhobi came out. And the donkey said, dhobi, why don't you finish smoking your bidi while I finish this carrot? So the dhobi also said, good idea, donkey. So he smoked his bidi and they went to point B. And dhobi felt one more carrot. By the time they went to point C, the donkey said, Dhobi, अभी तेरा reward बस है, अब तू कितना भी carrot दे, मैं आगे नहीं जाने वाला हूँ. So Dhobi got very angry. So he took out a stick and he beat the donkey. And he said, Chal, dosti ka fayda uthata hai. And he beat the donkey and said, come with me. When they reached the next point, Dhobi felt sorry that he had beaten his favorite friend, the donkey. And he gave him 2 carrots. Now the donkey said, tu mere ko kitna bhi carrot de, kitna bhi maar, main next stop ko nahi jaunga. So this external motive doesn't work, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to look at that inner prerana, the antar prerana. So where do we get this antar prerana from? I have been a student of the Bhagwad Gita for the last 25-30 years. I used the Bhagwad Gita when I was going through serious professional trouble in my company that I was running. I was running the largest healthcare communications company in this country in Bombay. And I went back to the Bhagwad Gita to figure out what are some answers that I can get in my life to practice on a day-to-day basis. My program, Born to Win, encapsulates all that I'm going to show you right now. So let's take the religion out, but let's look at the practical philosophy of the Gita. The first thing that the Gita tells us is the principle of swadharma. It says, be yourself. Do not be a pale imitation of somebody else. Krishna tells this very beautifully in chapter 3 in verse 35. And he tells Arjuna, it is far better to perform one natural prescribed duty, though tinged with faults, than to perform another's prescribed duty, though perfectly. In fact, it is preferable to die in discharge of one's duty than to follow the path of another which is fraught with danger. Swadharma. So what is this whole thing about Swadharma? It is very simple. To do something that makes you happy, your family happy, your immediate ecosystem happy, and the larger ecosystem happy. I repeat, Swadharma is nothing but to do something that makes you happy, your family happy, your immediate ecosystem happy, and your larger ecosystem happy. Can you be an instrument to spread your happiness? And Krishna says it is better to be yourself. That is your Swadharma. It is better to be yourself than to be anybody else. So if you can go and share this message of Swadharma with all the people that work with you, that please be yourself. Don't try and be somebody else. Don't try and be a pale imitation of somebody else. The second thing is to be outcome focused. And I'm going to share with you a particular shloka which according to me has been completely misinterpreted, has not been understood properly at all. I'm sure most of you know this shloka, karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Now here the operative part, gentlemen and lady, is the last part of the second line. Please read that. It says, you have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your action. Never consider yourself to the cause of results of your activities, nor be attached to inaction. Now we've conveniently forgotten this part. Being attached to inaction. Now let me interpret this for you, because this has not been understood by a lot of people. A lot of people say that this means Krishna is telling you to be goalless. No. There is a fine distinction that he is making between being outcome focused and result focused. You see, when his whole advice to Arjuna and his advice to all of you is this. When you're doing something at this point of time, be completely focused on the outcome of that action. Don't worry about what will happen 1 hour later. At this point of time, if you're doing a presentation, then be completely focused on getting your best game into that presentation right now. Don't worry about the reaction of the customer or the client. His advice to Arjuna is very simple. Now look at Arjuna. What a great character in the Mahabharata. The best warrior, right? He was the most well-trained guy. He had the best of arms. He had Krishna as his Sarathi. He had Adishesha as his chariot wheels. and to provide stability, he had Hanuman in his flag. What more do you want in life? The best guy. From today's perspective, IIT, IIM, the best laptop, people like you backing him with all your experience. Okay? What more do you want in life? Yeah. No? Best brands, best product. No? But Krishna knew one flaw in Arjuna's character. He knew that his conditioning will make him give up at the right time. And he knew in the heat of the battle, when he comes up with a Bhishma or a Drona, he will start getting wavering. And he may not release the arrow with the same intensity that he should release it. He may not release the arrow with the same intensity that he should release it at. Therefore, he brings the chariot right in the middle and says, take a look. There are your brothers, there is your uncle, there is your grandfather, there is your guru. And expectedly, Arjuna says, I won't fight. Because he knows this. Can you imagine the disaster that would happen in the Kurukshetra war? If in the heat of the war, and there is Bhishma standing in front of Arjuna, and Arjuna becomes weak. And he does become weak at one point of time in the war. And he almost forces Krishna to give up his promise and get down from the chariot to fight against Bhishma. Can you imagine the disaster that would have happened? So therefore he says, very simple, Arjuna, when you pick up the bow and put the arrow into the bow, you completely focus your mind on only the release of this arrow. Don't worry about who the arrow is intended for or what will happen to the other guy. Here is a great lesson for all of us. We're all caught in this trap of what I call chinta and shoka. Chinta about the future, shoka about the past. We're caught in this trap of chinta and shoka. In the Aditya Hridayam Stotram, Agastya comes and tells Rama this. Chinta shoka prashamanam ayurvardhanam uttamam, which means forget chinta and forget shoka. You focus on the now. This is what this shloka is all about, gentlemen. It's not about being goalless. Because when you start thinking of the results, you get into inaction. And that's what he's telling us. The third particular mindset that I'd like to recommend to you is this. In chapter 16, verse 1 to 3, Krishna talks about two very, very important points. One, to inculcate fearlessness and back it with humility. This is another mindset that you need to look at. He says, fearlessness, purity of the heart, steadfastness in knowledge, yoga, almsgiving, control of the senses, sacrifice, study of the scripture, austerity, straightforwardness. And then he goes on to talk about harmlessness, truth, absence of anger, renunciation, peacefulness, absence of crookedness, compassion towards beings, non-covetousness, gentleness, modesty, absence of fickleness, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, purity, absence of hatred, and finally, absence of pride. Two very, very important points here, gentlemen. Okay? He starts with fearlessness and he ends with humility. Can you teach your people this whole lesson of fearlessness? What is fearlessness? You all understand fear. Bhai. Fear paralyzes you. It does not allow you to action. Fearless can be foolish. That means you take unnecessary risks in life. Fearlessness is a beautiful message from the Gita. It means if you walk, you will fall. That is a guarantee. If you walk, the guarantee is that you will fall. But if you fall and choose to remain there, then you're a failure. But if you walk and you fall, if you take some action, you will not be successful. My friend Hemant did that entire rendering in AI. There is a chance that it won't work. Perfectly all right. But does he have the confidence in himself that if I fall, I will get up and walk again? That is fearlessness. Can you get your employees to start inculcating fearlessness? That not every deal that they will go after, they will get. Can they start looking at fearlessness? And along with that, humility. That you're here to serve. At the end of the day, the product that you're selling is going to transform the life of your customer, your client. That humility, not the arrogance, the ego that comes in. And then he talks about another very interesting thing. If you remember the 6 gateways to hell that we had talked about in the Upanishads, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Moha, Matsarya. In the Bhagwad Gita, he restricts himself to just 3. Kama, Krodha, Lobha. We have this innate need for instant gratification. We need to come out of that. Why? Listen to what Krishna says. While contemplating on the objects of senses, one develops attachment to them, kama. Attachment leads to desire, desire to anger. And why should you be worried about that? Anger leads to a clouding of judgment. When you get anger, when your ego gets hurt, and when the judgment is clouded, then everything is lost in life. So be careful. Because anger will lead to unnecessary lobha. Finally, Krishna's point to us is very simple. He says, how can you become a sthita prajna? How can you handle opposites in life? Look, the point is that you will get opposites in life. This is bound to happen. And he tells us that when one discards all selfish desires and cravings of the senses, then you get to a situation where you become a sthita prajna. So let's look at this antarprerna mindset that we're talking about. Okay? 5 things. I believe if we can practice these 5, and this is what we've been talking about for the last 20 years, and we've created some huge success stories in the world. 1, to practice your swadharma. You are unique. Keep telling your kids, you are unique. Don't be an imitation of anybody else. You are unique. Tell your employees, each one of you is unique. Be yourself. Be true to yourself. Be true to your potential. Practice your swadharma. 2, be outcome focused. Yes, we need those results. So, series of outcomes is a result. But what is it that we can do to make sure that we start getting into this outcome focus, to live in the now? You must have heard of this whole movement that happened in the West, that you must live in the now. What is live in the now? This is from our Indic thought, that be outcome focused. Don't worry about the results. Results is bound to happen. Results will come in life. There will be a goal that we need to achieve. There are numbers that we need to achieve. There are targets that we have to go and achieve. There's no doubt about that. But can you please work today in a way that you bring your best to this particular activity, and therefore the outcome of this activity is to the best of your ability? Can you do that? 3, can you practice fearlessness along with humility? The fact that when you go to the market today it will not work doesn't matter. But do you have the capability within? Do you have the capacity within to tell yourself that I am going to get up and start walking again? And I have the humility, I will not allow my ego to come in the way. Can you make sure that you get out of anger this whole ego business? That I am the last word in something. I know everything there is to know about it. Can you come out of that ego business? Can you develop that humility? And finally, that there will be this play of opposites in life. How do you handle? You will have to handle pleasure and pain. You will have to handle hot and cold. You will have to handle success and a fall. Can you develop this mindset of being a sthita prajna? That is the equanimity to handle both the play of opposites. The world is full of this play of opposites. can we do this? If we were to do this, gentlemen and lady, I am very, very sure that we will help in creating that Bharat that all of us are looking at. So I'm saying, एक नई भारतीय सोच की जरूरत है. We have to start working in that way. Can we lead the world from our mindset perspective? I believe we can. I believe the time has come now to seize that opportunity and to make sure it works. And we have enough and more of examples of how people like you and I have got together and have done this, sector after sector after sector after sector after sector. And we can do it. So thank you very much for this opportunity to be here. I hope you're all excited about the opportunity that India is all about, what we can achieve, and how we can actually go about doing what we need to be doing. Thank you so very much. How do you distinguish between anger and frustration? Well, you know, if there is a certain amount, where does frustration come from? Frustration comes from an expectation that has not happened. Correct? You could be frustrated, right? That, look, this is what I expect and this is not what is happening, so I'm frustrated. But if you're frustrated about something, there is still a possibility of moving ahead. Are you with me? I'm frustrated that my guy didn't do some work. I'm frustrated that my son didn't do something. I'm frustrated that my daughter didn't do something. You're frustrated, it's okay, right? There is a certain angst in you. But if you were to get angry and you allow your ego to come in, then there is a complete breakdown. And if there is a complete breakdown, then it becomes very difficult to repair that relationship and come back. Okay? So disappointment, frustration, all of these lead to anger, but stop it there. Make sure that you're doing something by which you're at least helping move the conversation forward and not getting into a breakdown.
You mentioned that we should be outcome focused. But the shloka you mentioned and the explanation you gave, you should be action focused. So it's not outcome, like when you mentioned that you should not worry about where the arrow is going to hit. That is the outcome. While actually what you mentioned is that you should focus on the release of the arrow, which is not the outcome, but which is the action you're taking. So it should be action focused. Fantastic. Or outcome focused.
So when you release the arrow, it will hit someone.
That is the outcome.
That is the result. When I am releasing the arrow right now, the arrow is intended to kill Bhishma or Drona or whoever it is. That is the result. So if I keep thinking that, my God, this arrow of mine is going to kill my grandfather, then, you know, my hand may start wavering.
So what would be outcome?
Let me come to that. I'm writing this presentation. I'm meeting this very important client. Let us say, for instance, for some strange reason, I've got an opportunity to meet up with Akash Ambani. And I'm making a presentation to Akash Ambani that I'm going to transform all your Jio stores across the world. Correct? Now this is Akash Ambani. Now this is potentially a $100 million contract. Okay? Now I read up about Akash Ambani. And he says, something. Now I'm writing the whole presentation to please Akash Ambani. Will I get the contract? Will I not get the contract? What kind of a presentation am I writing? Not to the best of my capabilities. Because I am writing this presentation to please him. Because I don't want to lose the $100 million contract. Okay? Right? That's the result. What is the outcome that you have to focus on right now? to release the arrow to the best of your ability. That is the action that you need to take. The outcome is that, look, you pull that arrow, you take the best arrow in your quiver, you take the most efficient arrow that you have. You take the bow and you take the string to whatever extent you can. And the action is to release it in such a way that that is the most effective arrow that is going to leave your hands right now. That is the outcome. So right now when you're writing this presentation, you will give the best of Alok in that presentation. Right? Whoever be the recipient, at least you have the satisfaction that I've given the best of mine right now. Right? Okay? A series of these bests will give you the result. Okay? The best presentation written, the best way to prepare for that presentation meeting, the best presentation to be given to the best of your abilities in the meeting, the best at the negotiation table will get you the contract. But if you keep thinking of the contract all the time, then you will not give the best of your ability here. Great?
Hi, sir.
Yeah, who do you tell? Yeah, 1 minute, sir. You want him to go? He's got the mic already. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Sir, sometimes when we are stuck and we cannot figure out what action we should take. So in that case, what should we do? Like you cannot figure out what is the next action you should take.
Correct. Therefore, this whole question of Swadharma, sir. Therefore, this whole question of Swadharma. Be completely influenced by what makes you happy. The reason why we are confused sometimes on what action that we need to take is because we move away from our Swadharma. We try and do something which is not part of what you are. That is the time when you're confused, sir. Let me give you a point. I'm not a very aggressive guy. Okay? I'm not an aggressive person. I'm a very stable, pacifist kind of a guy. A lot of people keep telling me, you should be more aggressive. My Swadharma is not to be aggressive, sir. I can't be aggressive. You get the point? But if you tell me to take that action on an aggression basis, I can't. And therefore I get confused. Okay? I'm more of an assertive kind of a person. So, if my Swadharma is to be more assertive rather than aggressive, I would rather take an assertive action because that's the kind of person I am and therefore I will take that action, sir. Are you with me? Yeah? Yes, sir.
We have one more question here, and anyone else has any other questions, then put it up on Slido. We will share it, sir, and we can.
नमस्कार सर, हिंदी में बोलूँ चलेगा ना?
हाँ बिल्कुल बोलिए सर.
ठीक है. एक तो मुझे ना ये आपका आउटकम और रिजल्ट वाला बहुत अच्छा लगा. वो श्लोक बहुत बार सुना है, आपने बहुत अलग तरीके से बोला. मेरी आपसे और एक रिक्वेस्ट है. मैक्सिमम टाइम क्या होता है जब भी हम हमारी सेल्स टीम के साथ बात करते हैं ना, तो वी ऑलवेज टॉक अबाउट कि 1 करोड़ का टारगेट था, अभी तो 40 लाख पहुंचा है. ठीक है. और 80% ऑफ द टाइम एंड एफर्ट एंड एनर्जी इज डिवोटेड टू दैट कन्वर्जेशन ओनली. तो मैं चाहूँगा कि आप इसके ऊपर थोड़ा सा और शेयर करें कि हाउ वी टॉक आउटकम ओरिएंटेड रादर देन टॉक और थिंक अबाउट रिजल्ट ओरिएंटेड.
करेक्ट.
या दोनों में से क्या सही होगा सर? थैंक यू सर.
अगर कोई बंदा सेल्स कर रहा है तो उसके 2-3 काम हैं सर जिंदगी में. अगर कोई बंदा सेल्स कर रहा है तो उसके 2-3 ही काम है और कुछ तो है नहीं. एक काम क्या है, उसको कॉल करना है, कॉल करके मीटिंग सेटअप करना है ना. Unless he makes those calls, unless he sets up those meetings, he is not going to be able to go and get a meeting. And we all know that cold call तो चलता नहीं. मतलब cold call जाके knock करके धंधा मिलना is a waste of time and energy. अक्सर क्या होता है कि जब हम उनको एक टारगेट देते हैं कि आपको 20, मैं सिर्फ कॉल की बात कर रहा हूँ, अब बात मेरी बड़ी बात आप समझ जाएंगे, आपका जो सवाल प्रश्न है उसका सवाल मिल जाएगा आपको। जब हम लोग बोलते हैं उसको कि भाई तेरे को 20 कॉल करना है आज, ये आपका टारगेट है, ठीक है ना, हम उसमें क्या प्रेशर डालते हैं, 20 कॉल हुआ नहीं हुआ। अब वो 20 कॉल गधे को फोन कर रहा है, खच्चर को फोन कर रहा है, गाय को फोन कर रहा है, घोड़े को फोन कर रहा है, राइट? उसका प्रेशर क्या है कि बॉस मेरे को पूछेगा 20 कॉल खत्म हुआ कि नहीं हुआ। मेरे को सिर्फ बोलना है कि सर हाँ 20 कॉल हो गया। कितने मीटिंग मिला? सर 1 मीटिंग मिला, 2 मीटिंग मिला, राइट? जब आप उसको बोल रहे हो टारगेट आपका 1 करोड़ है, आज तक आप 40 लाख बनाए, राइट? ये आउटकम और रिजल्ट की बात देखिए। आज आप क्या कर रहे हो समझाइए मुझे। आप किसको मिल रहे हो आज कि जाके उसको साइन अप करोगे? आज आपके ऊपर फोकस कीजिए ना। और 10 दिन बाकी हैं, आपको 60 लाख कवर करनी है 10 दिन के अंदर। क्या मैं आपकी मदद कर सकता हूं कि ये 10 दिन, ये आज के दिन आप कौन सा ऐसा काम करोगे और कैसा करोगे, किसको मिलोगे जिससे आप आगे बढ़ोगे, है ना? तो 20 कॉल से मतलब नहीं है ना सर, 20 कॉल से मतलब नहीं है। मेरे ख्याल से अगर इसके ऊपर हम लोग एक एक ब्रेकडाउन करेंगे वो सिस्टम को, और हर पहले बोलेंगे भाई तेरा प्रॉस्पेक्ट लिस्ट क्या है बता मेरे को, किस किस के ऊपर तू प्रॉस्पेक्ट कर रहा है, क्यों, इस इंसान को आप मिल रहे हो किस हिसाब से मिल रहे हो, या इस इंसान को आप कॉल कर रहे हो क्यों कॉल कर रहे हो, समझाइए मुझे। तो हर एक जो प्रोसेस है, सेल्स इज अ प्रोसेस एट द एंड ऑफ द डे। एवरी स्टेप ऑफ द प्रोसेस, if you focus on the outcome and say okay let's now move, so can we get the best prospect list out, can we have the best qualified prospects, can we make them into A class prospects, okay? So can you actually in the sales process keep focusing on those outcome of that particular process right now, okay? अगर ये हो जाएगा सर 1 करोड़ हो जाएगा। अगर ये नहीं होगा ना, लॉटरी लगी तो लगी, नहीं लगी तो नहीं लगी, है ना? कभी कभी लॉटरी भी आ सकती है जिंदगी में। आपको पता है ना सर लॉटरी की क्या बात है? वो एक आदमी भगवान से बहुत प्रार्थना किया कि भाई मुझे लॉटरी दिला, लॉटरी दिला। तो किसी ने कहा कि तू गलत पूजा कर रहा है। तो बोले क्या करो? तो आप मार्केट में ऐसे खड़े रहो और पूजा करो। तो उसने वो भी किया, फिर भी नहीं लगी उसको। फिर उसको बोले कि एक पैर पे खड़ा रहो और एक हाथ ऐसे उठाओ, फिर लॉटरी मांगो, भगवान पक्का आपकी बात सुनेगा। तो फिर वो बेचारा उसने भी वो भी किया, फिर भी नहीं लगी। तो उसने बोला क्या यार मैं इतना तेरा भक्त हूं, कभी तो मेरी बात सुन। तो बोलता जा साले लॉटरी तो खरीद। तो अगर तू लॉटरी का टिकट ही नहीं खरीदेगा तो लॉटरी कैसे लगेगी दोस्त? मैं कहां से तुझे लॉटरी दिलवाऊंगा यार, है ना? तो प्रोसेस है सर, और हर प्रोसेस में एक आउटकम होता है। और अगर आप वो प्रोसेस को फॉलो करेंगे और वो आउटकम आपका बेस्ट है तो रिजल्ट, नतीजा तो पक्का निकलेगा सर, ये मेरा गारंटी है। कहीं पे भी सर, किसी पे भी।
Okay, one last question.
हाँ जी सर। हाँ सर, गुड मॉर्निंग सर।
एक क्वेश्चन है मेरा।
हाँ सर।
जब कोई बिजनेसमैन जब स्टार्ट करता है बिजनेस, तो उसके अंदर सबसे पहले जब बिजनेस चालू करता है तो इज ए वेरी आम आदमी होता है, बस उसकी सक्सेस स्टोरी क्रिएट नहीं होती है। जैसे जैसे वो टाइम बढ़ता जाता है वो सक्सेस होता जाता है, तो उसके अंदर एक प्राउड की भावना आती रहती है कि आई एम ए बेस्ट, आई एम ए बेस्ट, आई एम ए बेस्ट। तो मेरा क्वेश्चन सिंपल सा है कि ईगो जो होती है इज द गुड फॉर बिजनेस या बैड फॉर बिजनेस?
मेरे ख्याल से आप ही ने तो जवाब दे दिया सर। सर देखिए, एक ईगो होती है, एक ईगो होती है और एक प्राइड होती है, ठीक है ना? आपको बिल्कुल हक है सर, आप अगर मेहनत किए हो और उस मेहनत का कुछ फल मिला है और वो फल आप कुछ और चीज में ट्रांसलेट कर रहे हो, ओके, तो आप उस चीज को एंजॉय करने का आपको बिल्कुल हक है सर। अब आपने मेहनत किया है, आप पैसे कमाए, अच्छी तरीके से कमाए, और आपके पास आज सबसे बेहतर फोन है, तो आप इसको बिल्कुल एंजॉय कीजिए, क्योंकि ये आपका मेहनत का फल है, इसमें कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं है सर। बट जिस दिन आप सोचोगे कि मेरा ही फोन है, ये सबसे बेहतर फोन है ये रूम में, वो दिन प्रॉब्लम होता है ना? क्योंकि आपके जो बाजू वाले बैठे हैं वो बोले ये फोन का क्या भाव है, 1 लाख है, मेरा तो 1.5 लाख का है। तो तुरंत नहीं सर, तुरंत आपका जो एरोगेंस है कि मेरे पास सबसे अच्छा फोन है, वो इमीडिएटली डिसअपॉइंटमेंट हो जाएगा। अरे यार ये क्या बात हुई कि मेरे साथी, मेरे उनके पास 1.5 लाख का फोन है और मेरे पास 1 लाख का फोन है। हाँ, सो व्हाट आई एम सेइंग इज दैट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन प्राइड एंड ईगो। यू मस्ट टेक प्राइड इन व्हाट यू हैव, देयर इज नो डाउट अबाउट इट, ओके। हमारे उपनिषद में भी लिखा है कि वही आदमी खुश होता है हु एंजॉयज व्हाट ही हैज। आपके पास जो है उससे आप खुशी लो, उससे आप आनंद लो, वो सच्चा आनंद है, ओके। बाहर कुछ नहीं है सर, है ना? लेकिन अगर आप कंपैरिजन में चले जाओ तो फिर वो ईगो हो गया आपका। एरोगेंस, ईगो, वो सब एक ही एक जात के हैं सर। ईगो विल लीड टू एरोगेंस सर, ईगो विल लीड टू एरोगेंस। Thank you very much.
Yeah, so
I'd like to thank.
I'd like to invite Ashish Chaudhary. Ashish Chaudhary, if you can come and facilitate, sir. In fact, an old saying that egg broken from inside, life begins, and egg broken from outside, life ends. Correct. So it's, antar prerna. That's